I just heard the news about Dikembe Mutombo, and um, you have no idea what Dikembe Mutombo meant to me.
Dikembe Mutombo was more than a legend on the basketball court. He was a legend in life. I will always be grateful to the wisdom he shared and the example he set for me and so many others, especially in Africa.
If you've ever wondered how good Dikembe Mutombo really was, you're about to hear it from the greatest legends who faced him. Michael Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal, Allen Iverson, Patrick Ewing, and Masai Ujiri. They just revealed secrets about the man behind the finger wag that will change everything you know. On September 30th, 2024, Dikembe passed away at 58 after a 2-year battle with brain cancer. The basketball world went silent. But then these 5 legends stepped forward with stories they held for decades. Stories about who he really was. And here's the secret. It's not scandal. It's not ego. It's about a man so extraordinary that Michael Jordan himself had to change his approach just to compete with him. It's about respect, sacrifice, and a man who lived 3 lives at once. By the way, if this story hits you, hit the hype button and give this video some hype, because Dikembe's journey deserves to be everywhere. Let's start with number 5. Masai Ujiri is the president of the Toronto Raptors and the first African president of an NBA franchise. But listen to him talk about Dikembe, and you'll understand that Mutombo made that possible. Ujiri was a young scout for the Denver Nuggets when Mutombo took him under his wing. Mutombo took him by the wings in Denver and made him grow as a person. But the real secret came through their humanitarian work together. They traveled across Africa for Giants of Africa and Basketball Without Borders. Ujiri revealed what those trips actually looked like. No glamour. Just grueling travel, sleeping in transit, navigating cities with broken infrastructure. Mutombo would show up and his presence validated the entire mission. Ujiri says, "Who are we without Dikembe Mutombo?" Not possible. When Ujiri broke down in tears after learning of Mutombo's passing, he said, "Mutombo made us who we are. He set a path for us." Now you see guys like Joel Embiid and Pascal Siakam, African stars in the NBA, and Ujiri connects them directly to the jungle Dikembe, cut through when nobody believed African players could lead. The lineage runs from Mutombo to Ujiri to the next generation. That's the secret legacy most people never discuss. Now let's talk about number 4. Allen Iverson called Dikembe his big bro and the most beautiful soul he'd ever known. These aren't casual words. During the 2001 season, Larry Brown told Mutombo in the All-Star locker room, "You're coming with me to Philadelphia." Iverson immediately said, "Yeah, coach, he's coming with us." Mutombo thought it was a joke. 2 days later, he was traded. That changed everything. The story everyone tells about 2001 is all about Iverson. But the secret teammates knew was that Iverson dealt with intense personal issues. He was constantly on the phone, visibly tense, carrying emotional weight. Aaron McKee revealed Iverson was barely holding it together some nights. But Mutombo was the spine. In Game 1 of the conference finals, Iverson shot 13 for 35. Mutombo came in with 15 points, 18 rebounds, and 4 blocks. Then in Game 7 against Milwaukee, Mutombo put up 23 points, 19 rebounds, and 7 blocks. He was the emotional anchor that allowed Iverson's chaos to become genius. When Iverson paid tribute and said "big bro," that was gratitude for a man who protected him in ways far deeper than basketball. Let's move to number 3. Shaquille O'Neal at his peak was something the world had never seen before. He was 325 pounds of pure dominance. Nobody could stop him. Nobody. But then you had Mutombo, the reigning Defensive Player of the Year, going up against him in the 2001 finals. And for 20 years after that, they argued about what really happened out there. Shaq says he never used his elbows. Mutombo says he's lying. He said that on national television years later. He said he's lying over and over. But the secret that Shaq finally admitted is that Mutombo was one of the few guys who wasn't afraid of him. And he played the game the right way. What does that mean? It means while other centers would flop, would fake injuries, would complain to refs, Mutombo just took it. He took the punishment. He absorbed the contact. In Game 1 of that series, Mutombo played 43 minutes against a guy who outweighed him by nearly 80 pounds. 43 minutes of wrestling, pushing, feeling that immense physical force trying to move him. And Mutombo just dug in deeper. That's toughness that comes from somewhere inside you that can't be taught. Shaq's admission was huge because Shaq respects very few people the way he respected Mutombo. He said Dikembe was one of the few guys who wasn't afraid of me. Think about that. Shaq at his absolute peak, and he's admitting that Mutombo made him work, made him respect the game, made him see himself in a different way. Now we get to number 2, Michael Jordan. When Jordan paid tribute to Mutombo after his death, he said Dikembe was a great competitor and a better human being. He challenged everyone who came to the rim. But the secret history of their relationship goes back much further than that moment. It goes back to 1991, Mutombo's rookie year. Jordan was the king of the NBA. Mutombo was unknown. But in that first game against each other, Mutombo got under Jordan's skin. During the game, Mutombo told him, "You haven't gotten me yet. You haven't dunked on me yet." And Jordan, the greatest competitor who ever lived, heard that challenge, and he took it personally. For 6 years, Jordan tried to dunk on Mutombo. 6 years, think about that. Jordan dunked on virtually everyone. He was the most dominant player in the world. But there was one guy who kept him away from the rim. It created this psychological battle that haunted Jordan. He famously closed his eyes on a free throw against Mutombo and said, "Welcome to the NBA." But the dunk, the ultimate symbol of dominance, stayed away from him. Then in 1997, in the playoffs against Atlanta, it finally happened. Jordan cut to the basket, Luke Longley passed it to him, and Mutombo rotated late from the weak side. Jordan rose up, powerful and furious, and finished the dunk. But the secret of what happened next is huge. Jordan didn't just celebrate. He mimicked Mutombo's signature finger wag right back at him. Now think about what that means. Jordan rarely mocked players beneath him. He reserved his psychological warfare for people he actually respected, for people who were genuine threats. By stealing the finger wag, Jordan was saying, "I acknowledge you. I respect you enough to take your signature move and throw it back at you." That's the highest compliment Jordan could pay. The finger wag itself started back in 1988 at Georgetown, the very first game of the season, when Mutombo blocked a shot into the second row. He started wagging his finger at defenders, and it became his brand. The NBA eventually cracked down on it. They made him wag to the crowd instead of at the player because the league didn't want that kind of taunting. But there was this secret negotiation behind the scenes where Mutombo and the league worked out a deal. He could keep his signature move alive, but he had to direct it away from the player. Even the NBA's rules bent around Mutombo's legend. Finally, number 1, Patrick Ewing. Ewing played at Georgetown before Mutombo got there. Ewing was already an NBA superstar when Mutombo was a raw kid trying to figure out basketball. But Ewing came back to the Georgetown gym in the summers, and he put Mutombo through a level of torture that forged him into who he became. See, Mutombo arrived at Georgetown on a USAID scholarship. He came from the Congo. His original dream was to study medicine, not play basketball. He was just a 7'2" kid trying to navigate the United States. But Georgetown under coach John Thompson was a different beast. It was a fortress of black excellence. It demanded discipline and intellectual rigor, and Ewing made it his mission to pass down what he had learned. The secret that Ewing revealed is that he didn't treat Mutombo like a charity case. He treated him like a sparring partner, like a brother who needed to be forged in fire. Ewing would come back in the summer and they would run. They would battle in closed-door gym sessions. Ewing sweated twice as much in practice as he did in games. That was the standard. That was what he expected. Those summer runs weren't about getting better at basketball. They were about learning to survive pressure, learning to anticipate what a great player would do, learning that you had to work harder than everyone else or you would get left behind. When Ewing called Mutombo his brother, he was acknowledging those shared hours of suffering under Coach Thompson's demanding system. It was a bond forged in sweat and pain. Mutombo himself said that Ewing's legacy of toughness became his blueprint. And early on, there was this moment that shows exactly who Mutombo was as a person. He was living in the Georgetown dorms with Alonzo Mourning, another center in the Thompson lineage. And Mutombo got homesick. He missed the food from Kinshasa. So one night he decided to cook chicken, like his mother used to make. But he didn't know American ingredients. He grabbed cornbread mix instead of flour. He threw that chicken into hot oil and the sugar in the cornbread mix burned instantly. Thick, acrid smoke poured out of the pan. The apartment filled up. The fire department had to come to campus. Sirens blaring. Mourning was laughing so hard he could barely breathe. But that story, funny as it is, shows you something deep about Mutombo. He was trying to hold on to home. He was a student first, a basketball player second. He was navigating a brand new world without his mother, without his family, without the comfort of anything familiar. And yes, he messed up a lot. There's another secret story that Mourning confirmed. For years, Mutombo denied it. The story that went, "Who wants to sex Mutombo?" He would go into Georgetown parties and nightclubs and say it like a pickup line. For years, Mutombo said that was a lie. He said the media made it up, but Morning finally confirmed it. He said there's truth to that. That was his pickup line. And it worked. Why does that matter? Because it shows you that the same confidence, the same charisma that allowed a young African man to command a room full of American college students is the exact same confidence that would later allow him to walk into the offices of world leaders and demand millions of dollars for hospitals. He was never small, never quiet, never afraid to ask for what he wanted. But all of that pride and confidence and toughness was built on something heartbreaking. Mutombo's mother, Biamba Marie, died in 1997. She died because she couldn't reach a hospital. Civil unrest and curfews had shut down the streets of Kinshasa. She couldn't get medical care. She couldn't get help. And Dikembe was thousands of miles away playing basketball while his mother died. That loss never left him. He made a vow right then and there. He would build a hospital in his mother's name. He would make sure that no other family in the Congo faced that helplessness. And he did. The Biamba Marie Mutombo Hospital in Kinshasa became his life's work. He poured $15 million of his own money into a $29 million project. He faced corruption. He faced bureaucratic delays. He faced the nightmare of building a modern medical facility in a city where the power barely worked. But by 2024, that hospital had treated over 500,000 patients. It had become a sanctuary, a place where people could go and know they would get sterile conditions, reliable electricity, real medical care. But here's what most people don't know. Mutombo didn't just sign checks from a distance. He was intimately involved in people's lives. He took on their suffering. There was a boy named Matadi Sela Petit. He was 8 years old. He had a massive tumor on his face. His village had shunned him. His own family had hidden him away because of the shame, because of the stigma. Mutombo met him. He personally arranged for Matadi to fly to Los Angeles for surgery. He paid for everything. He was there, invested, hoping this young boy would get a second chance at life. But Matadi died on the operating table, a rare genetic reaction to anesthesia that nobody could have predicted. Mutombo was devastated. People around him said the loss absolutely broke him. But you know what? He didn't stop. He kept building. He kept showing up. He kept opening his arms to more people, more suffering, more risk of heartbreak. Beyond the hospital, there were these quiet acts of grace that nobody ever talked about. He paid for people's medical bills. He paid for funerals of strangers in his community. In 1996, when the Zaire women's national basketball team had no money to travel to the Olympics, Mutombo paid out of his own pocket for them to go. No cameras, no praise. Just a man who saw a need and filled it. He was instrumental in vaccination campaigns across Africa. He used his fame to convince skeptical communities to accept the polio vaccine. He sat on the boards of the CDC Foundation, UNICEF USA, and the Special Olympics. These weren't honorary positions. He showed up. He did the work. And here's something that almost nobody knows about Dikembe Mutombo. He spoke 9 languages: English, French, Spanish, Portuguese, Lingala, Chiluba, and 3 other Central African dialects. And late in life, he was still learning Chinese and Japanese because he wanted to use those languages to build bridges in global basketball. His intelligence, his curiosity, his commitment to understanding the world ran so deep. He wasn't just a basketball player who became a philanthropist. He was a scholar, a diplomat, a bridge builder between continents and cultures. The 5 legends who stepped forward after his passing, they all came to the same realization. The secret they wanted to share wasn't about block shots or defensive records. It was about a man who lived 3 lives at the exact same time. He was the Hall of Fame defensive anchor, protecting the rim, fighting, battling, making plays that changed the outcome of games. He was a dedicated friend and brother to the men he played alongside: Jordan, Iverson, Shaq, Ewing. They all carried him with them in ways that had nothing to do with basketball. And he was a global humanitarian, pouring his life into the Congo, into Africa, into building infrastructure and hope where there had been none. The secret that these legends revealed is that the man who wagged his finger at the world was actually opening his arms to it. To Jordan, he was the ultimate competitor who demanded respect. To Shaq, he was a warrior who refused to cheat the game. To Iverson, he was a protective older brother. To Ewing, he was a brother forged in shared pain. To Ujiri, he was the father of African basketball leadership. And to the people of the Congo, he was a savior who brought healing. The NBA created the Dikembe Mutombo Humanitarian Award. They retired his number across the league, but the way his teammates and friends remember him, the way Masai Ujiri cried when he spoke about him, that's the real monument. That's the legacy that will last. He set a path for us, Ujiri said. The path remains visible, the mountain has fallen, but the trail it carved into the rock will guide everyone who comes after. Like and subscribe if Dikembe's story moved you. And comment below which of these legend stories surprised you the most. Thank you for listening to The Life of a Giant.